Hi guys and gals and kittens, and welcome to the AINIRO Magic Show. So in this video, I'm gonna create something that even typically senior software developer might spend like weeks on. I've seen senior developers fuck around with this for months without even succeeding, and it's user registration. It sounds ridiculously simple. I mean, how difficult can it be? It's a username and a password, right? But I mean, it includes blowfish, hashing with, per record-based salts, security, JWT, long transactions, etc., etc., etc. So even though it sounds really, really simple, it's actually very, very complex. Now, to further the insult, I'm going to be doing this in 20 minutes using low code and no code and workflows and actions. And to even further the insult, I'm going to use the waterfall software development methodology. Just to rub it in. So here I am in my Cloudlet. As you probably could see from my YouTube video from yesterday, we have this new thing called Toolbox, which allows me to create workflows based upon actions. A workflow is basically a collection of actions that are chained together that can provide input arguments to the next action based upon their output arguments, and they can be inside of HTTP endpoints, etc., etc. Now I'm going to need one plugin in order to be able to achieve this, and that is the registration module. So I'm just going to install that guy. It takes 2 seconds. Then I'm going to go to HyperID. Then I'm going to expand modules, and I'm going to create my cool app module. Right. So this becomes a folder and a module. Then I'm going to create a register.post.hl, very important naming convention, file here, hyperlambda file. It's an HTTP post endpoint. Registers a user in your cool app. Very cool. And then this bugger is going to take username, string, password, string, name, email, and reCAPTCHA token. So I'm going to explain the rationale for all of the choices I do in an associated blog. There's going to be a link in the description of this YouTube video to where you can read the entirety of the blog and even copy the code if you want to. However, I'm going to rush it a little bit now because I want to get through it ASAP, because I want to kind of like, illustrate that it's possible to build complex functionality within minutes using Magic. So the first thing we're going to do is validate our reCAPTCHA value. Okay, reCAPTCHA token, threshold 0.3, done. I've seen developers, even senior software developers, fuck around with this for a week without even accomplishing it correctly. I did it in 3 seconds. Save. Then ensure required arguments were given. Fine, mandatory. Okay, validators mandatory. Add name. Actually, let's start with username. Let's do them consecutively. Password. Name. All of our arguments are mandatory, so we're just gonna run through all of them. Email. Except the reCAPTCHA token, because it doesn't need to be mandatory because it's already checked above. And then what's next? Ensure email. Okay. Find email validator. Add email. Done. We're now validating that the email actually is a valid email address. Make sure username is available. Username available. Okay. Username available. Throw an exception if it's not. And actually, we can already at this point test this. If I do F5 now, and I try team, and just some random gibberish for the rest, you will see, boom, it throws. Okay, now it kicked in on the email validator. So let's actually give it a valid email. At which point you will see it throws because user already exists. Team is my username, right? As you can see here in the top right corner here. Team. So let's see what's next. Create user. Okay. Users create. Username. Password. Done. Now, where are we? Associate user with 2 extra fields, name and okay. Extras, upsert. Username, add name. Yes, save and we're now done with the registration flow almost, but now we need to send a verification email to the user. Why? Because we want to have a double opt-in endpoint that actually verifies that the user provides us an email address that he or she owns. So let's now get the config value from magic auth.secrets. Okay, copy, find config. You need to have the caret correctly positioned at the bottom. If I do here now and I click workflow, it's not going to work. Why? Because I'm at the bogus place. I can do in theory here and click and actually add an action, which actually will inject the action at this position, but I'm just consecutively adding and appending new actions to the same workflow. So for my sake, I just need to verify that I'm at the bottom all the time. Then we want to concatenate username. Okay, strings.join, concatenate, add, username, close, adds, config value, add separator. We can provide a comma here, but it's not really necessary. Yet again, I'm going to explain the rationale for this. Strings join in an article, which is going to be a link to in the description of this YouTube video. Hashing result of concatenated string. Hash input, join result, algorithm, 256 SHA. Probably good enough. Send email, and now before we can actually send the user an email, we're going to have to do a little bit of string intelligence. The first thing we're going to have to do is to create a body, right? This is the only part where we're actually manually creating code. Becomes the body of our email. Body, very creative word. Yo, dude. Click the link below to confirm your email address. Okay, now we want to copy the base URL of this guy. Ding. And then we want to append username equal username and token equal token. Now what we want to do, we want to do a string replace, strings replace. Okay, our input is body. Our what is username replace, and let's give it a unique name. That's kind of important, unfortunately. With hash, not that guy, but the username. So now we are replacing within the body string. We are replacing every occurrence of square bracket username with the username given to us as input. Then we want to do another string replace invocation. Now our source is our last string replace. At this point we want to replace token with hash result. Okay. Now what we want to do, we can send the email. Find email, send. And of course I've configured my SMTP settings before, right? So you're gonna have to do that in order to be able to get this to work. And you can just use the default from and from email. Please verify your email address. And body, strings replace, result. This is not HTML, so we don't need a markdown to HTML thing here. And now, fine, return. Actually, we don't need any return here, I guess. We can just do, well, we can do return result success. Right, we're creating an HTTP endpoint. It's probably polite of us to actually return some JSON payload. Now we can debug F5. Username, QWERTY, password. We don't do any password validation. John Doe. Email john@doe.com, and reCAPTCHA token we can ignore because we're root, so it's going to skip the reCAPTCHA validation because we're authenticated as root on the system. See if it works. It goes all the way down to actually sending the email. And here we go. Now the point about this HTTP, this URL, is that it leads to our cloudlet. So what we now basically need to do, we need to slightly modify it, and we need to, where is it? AINIRO.io, here it is. We need to slightly modify it such that it goes to AINIRO.io/magic/modules/ the name of our module, my cool app/verify. So we now need to create a verify HTTP GET endpoint here. Just save this guy first and select my cool app here and paste in verify.get.hl. And we're now creating another HTTP endpoint. Verifies allows the user to verify his or her email address. Very cool app, right? Arguments, token, string, username, string. Now let's have a look at our Jira list down here, verifying hash, okay. Getting config value for magic auth.secret. Let's just check to see what order we actually hash these guys inside of our register, because we need to reproduce that exact order, right? Now it's doing strings join, and it's using the username first, okay? Username first, and then it's using a comma. Okay, so now we need to get the config, same config value again. Magic auth secret. Then we need to do a join, strings join operation. Username first, remember. Username. Then the result of the config value operation, and then I think we added comma, right? As the separator, we don't actually need a separator. Save this guy. Let's just save this guy too to make sure we've saved all of these guys. And then let's go back to our Jira list, concatenate user, hashing results, okay. Find hash, input, result of our strings join. Then we need to use the same algorithm, SHA-256, that we used when we hashed it in our registration endpoint. Verify result of above hash equals query parameter hash, and if not, throw an exception. And now what we want to do, we want to create a conditional action execute invocation. Left-hand side is the hash result, comparison, NEQ. Right-hand side is the token that we're given as input argument, and action is throw. Whoops, error. Now when we select this action, it automatically populates the arguments. We can change this to bogus token, go home. Status, all 400, implying page load error. Public, true. Okay. Save. Now the point being that if we execute this guy and we just guess, so we have a username QWERTY, right? Now if we just guess a token, then it's going to throw an exception, of course. That is the whole point. Bogus token, go home, right? So now we know for a fact that we will never pass this code unless our token is actually correct. So what we can now do, now we can take that user and add it to the guest role. Users, roles add, yes. Username, add, guest. So this implies that it is impossible to get your user associated with this role unless you've actually verified your email address correctly. Let's see, redirect user to some static welcome URL. Okay, fine, redirect. And there we are, we're now done. Now to verify this, I could check my email. In fact, let me do that, register posts. So now let's do this through our endpoints for kicks, right? So now let's do my cool, was it? Okay, let's now first register a user. Username will be hello. Password will be, we're not validating the password as an exercise for later, right? Name Thomas Hansen, email thomas@gaiasol.com. And the reCAPTCHA token we don't need because we're still authenticated as root. However, if you are building a client for this, you actually need to do the reCAPTCHA thing. You need to associate it with your payload. So now let's try it out to verify that it's actually working. And it should result in success. Now I need to check my email. At this point, I'm going to have to blur the screen, unfortunately. But hopefully at this point, I will have been given an email with a registration link. And here you can see, ta-da! Thomas test-team.us.ainiro.io, magic modules, my cool app, verify username, hello, token, blah, 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 blah. Point being that now when I click this link, ta-da, I'm going to end up at ainiro.io. Now, if I go back to my backend and I open up manage and I open up users and role in a different tab here, you will see that my hello user is actually associated with the guest role. And if I had provided an email address that I didn't know myself, it would never have done that because it didn't do that before after the double opt-in. And there's absolutely no way a user can actually guess the hash or the token that is being automatically created based in the registration and sent to the email address belonging to the user. And that's it. I don't know how many minutes I spent, probably less than, at the very least, less than 30. Yet again, I've seen developers fuck up this for months. Senior developers too, without even being able to pull through. I did it in less than 30 minutes. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.